I'm David, also goes by Sir Darkar on Twitter, and this is Immard, the Stormcleaver. Immard is a 1 in Jeskai legendary human soldier creature with 4/4. When he enters the battlefield or attacks, Immard gets a charge. You may put a charge counter on Immard or remove a charge counter. When you remove a charge counter, you can choose one. Immard deals 4 damage to any target or gains lifelink and indestructible until end of turn. Immard is the in-universe version of Guile from the Street Fighter Secret Lair. In this version, you can pull from Phyrexia All Will Be One packs, and I got this signed by Kai Carpenter here at MagicCon Chicago here. Immard is a human soldier, which is actually the highlight of the deck. You want to, in this case, we are building into soldier typo, as well as taking advantage of various proliferate effects and various counters throughout the entire deck. So let's start off with Plainswalkers. To start us off, we're going to have some of the best Plainswalkers to help you build a big board of soldiers, such as Elspeth, Ninth Errant. Elspeth, we're taking advantage of her ability to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with her +1 ability, and if we're lucky, we will be able to get her up to her ultimate ability, making all of our permanents indestructible. Elspeth is also a Plainswalker, so she's going to benefit from multiple proliferate abilities that we have throughout the deck. Next up we have the best Elspeth, which is Elspeth, Sun's Champion, with her +1 being put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens on the battlefield. This is going to help us to build a huge board very quickly and get a lot of soldiers swinging out fast. And to really round it off, we have Elspeth Tyrell, originally printed in the Return to Mirrodin block. And once again, we are making soldier creature tokens, and on the off chance that we're running low on life, we can use Elspeth +2 to gain a bunch of life really quick with our army of tokens. Not a very commonly used Plainswalker, but no less important in the deck is Basri Ket. Basri was one of the commanders from Core Set 2020, or one of the Plainswalkers from Core Set 2021, and has not seen a reprint yet, but is very valuable in this deck. Basri's +1 puts a 1/1 counter onto one target creature, and it gains indestructible until end of turn. And if we manage to get off Basri's ultimate, we will be able to generate 1/1 white soldier creature tokens every turn, as well as putting 1/1 counters on those creatures. Basri synergizes amazingly with Immard because it allows us to make Immard indestructible without having to remove a charge counter, and allows us to use that charge counter to instead shock our opponents, creatures, or them to the face. But enough about the Plainswalkers, let's move into the creatures. As we said, this is a soldier deck, so we're going to take advantage of one of the newest soldiers from the Lord of the Rings set, Pippin, Guard of the Citadel. While Pippin doesn't necessarily have any soldier synergies, we are taking advantage of its tap ability to make another creature gain protection from another card type of my choice until end of turn. Once again, this is working to allow us to protect Immard or some of our other more valuable soldiers throughout the game. Next up we have Tajik, Legion's Edge. Tajik is a little more unconventional compared to the other soldiers in this deck, but no less valuable. When we are going to combat, Tajik will allow us to prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures. So this is going to enable us to swing out safely and without risk of losing our board to something bigger. For the sake of a little bit of control, we're including Lavinia Azorius Renegade in here. This deck has a lot of creature-heavy spells and abilities, but we need something to be able to slow our opponents down, and Lavinia synergizes greatly with that by countering our opponents' abilities whenever they don't spend any mana on it, and preventing them from casting bigger spells than the lands they have. We're going to jump into next Harbin, Vanguard Aviator. Harbin is the first soldier that we have that came out of the Brothers War set. The Brothers War set was full of soldiers, which really come in handy in this deck. Harbin's going to allow us to buff our soldiers as well as give them flying in the instance that we have our army fully accumulated. We've got Yotian Tactician, who's going to act as a lord for our deck and do a lot to keep all of our soldiers even bigger than we originally think they are. A very unconventional inclusion here is Optimus Prime Hero, but bear with me. Optimus Prime has the bolster ability, which is going to come in handy with our soldier army. Most of our soldiers that are going to be entering are 1/1s, and thanks to Optimus's bolster ability, we're going to be putting 1/1 counters on them every end step. So by the end, if you have Elspeth, Sun's Champion out, you have Optimus Prime Hero as well. You make 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. By your next turn, all those have a +1/+1 counter on them, and they're ready to deal some damage. A couple more synergistic soldiers. We got Skystrike Officer, which whenever it attacks will create a colorless soldier artifact creature token and will allow us to draw cards by tapping soldiers. So again, if we don't have a safe target to swing at, or maybe we're holding something out until our opponent's end step, we can tap a bunch of soldiers, draw a bunch of cards. Flux Channelers feeds into the proliferate mechanic that's going to really be important in this deck. Whenever we're casting non-creature spells, we'll be proliferating. And this will come in handy to buff up Immard with more charge counters, 1/1 counters on our creatures, and even our Plainswalkers. And naturally, we have Deep Close Skate to allow our Plainswalkers to enter the battlefield and ultimate immediately, and also to give us much more bang for our buck when we're including 1/1 counters on our creatures. Legion Warboss himself is a soldier, but will make us red goblin creature tokens that have haste, giving us some hasty attackers and also mentoring, similar to Tajik and Optimus Prime, just buffing up our smaller soldiers and other creatures as needed. Coming out of Dominaria United, we have Defiler of Faith, which is going to help with cost reduction at the cost of life, but also in this deck, which is full of white spells, we'll be making more 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Naturally, in a deck where you're making a bunch of tokens, Mentor of the Meek, who himself is a soldier, is going to come in handy with allowing us to draw a lot of cards. And Odric Master Tactician here is once again going to provide even more protection for our decks for our creatures as we're going through combat. Preeminent Captain is an interesting include from the Lorwyn block, which when attacks, you may put a soldier creature card from your hand into play tapped and attacking. This is going to be a great way for us to cheat in soldiers ad nauseum. As I mentioned before, this deck is very white heavy, so Reverent Hoplite is going to be amazing in allowing us to generate a huge boom of soldiers as soon as it hits the battlefield, thanks to the devotion mechanic. Everybody's favorite dog and Rescue Retriever is here, once again providing us some combat protection, and with its flash entry, we can add some more 1/1 counters to buff up our creatures. Valiant Veteran from Dominaria United, acting as a lord and also acting as a counter option. Keeper of the Accord, out of Commander Legends, is going to make us some 1/1 soldiers, but also is going to help us to ramp a little bit. In Jeskai colors, we don't have a lot of ramp options, so this is going to do wonders to help us keep up with lands. Recruitment Officer is going to act as a fantastic way for us to tutor out just a soldier that we need at a moment's notice. Field Marshal acting here as a great lord to buff our soldiers and also give first strike. So once again, we're not just getting steamrolled by our opponent's creatures, we're actually hitting them and knocking them out first. Scholar of New Horizons is an interesting pick. This came out of the Brothers War commander decks. While this is not a soldier itself, it enters with a 1/1 counter on it, and we have the ability to tap it and remove a counter from a permanent and search our library for a Plains card. Once again, this is feeding into our ability to ramp out lands really quickly. A couple more soldiers that we have here, once again just feeding into counters, lords, importantly Mirel here, who is going to protect us during our turns and make a lot of bang for our buck at the end of the turn. Siege Veteran, counters and 1/1s. Ballet Rush Banneret and Daru Warchief, acting as cost reducers, and Platoon Dispenser, going to generate 1/1 soldier creature tokens and let us draw cards. Now, the deck isn't too interesting beyond the creatures, so we're going to rattle through this really quickly. Ozlith here. So with all those counters that we're putting on, we're not going to lose them. Ikamoon Gauntlet to make our Plainswalkers potentially more explosive. Vanquisher's Banner and Herald's Horn to really feed into that soldier typal. And then your typical mana rocks. Some important enchantments. We got Assemble the Legion, making us soldier and also benefiting from Proliferate to add more muster counters, building up more muster counters faster than we can do anything with. Anointed Procession for double tokens. Mobilization to buff our soldiers, and impact tremors and inexorable tide. Do some damage when they enter the battlefield, and again, just like Flux Channeler, proliferate on casts. A few more important instances. Lantern Flare out of the Crimson Vow block. This is going to allow us to shock things and gain life whenever we have our army accumulated. Clever Concealment and Flawless Maneuver for protecting our decks. Call the Coppercoats for generating a bunch of soldiers, and a couple other protection pieces, and They Shall Know Fear, and Unbreakable Formation. Steady Progress with Proliferate, and then a bunch of other spot removals and some counters. Lastly, a few sorceries. Finale of Devastation will allow us to generate a bunch of soldiers or angels if we really have mana to spare. Martial Coup, wiping the board and building up more soldiers for us. Tezzeret's Gambit and Contentious Plan, giving us Proliferate and card draw. And lastly, a Blasphemous Act, because if we do not have at least 8 or more creatures, we're doing something wrong. The land base, up to your interpretation, but a Path of Ancestry and an Unclaimed Territory are absolute must-haves. And that is Immard the Stormcleaver.